Drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes. I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets.
Happy Tuesday. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is TFG Sports. I am your sports guy, Kendrick Henderson. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you having a great Tuesday evening. We actually gained an hour of sleep time. Fell back, so it's getting darker like at 5:30 now, so that's an adjustment for a lot of us, but good anyway. Glad to be here. Always good to be able to talk about sports for the next 30 minutes. You watching the best 30-minute sports show on social media, so come on in. Make sure you holler at your boy. Make sure you speak. I'm gonna give you a shout out, and make sure you share and like this. Share it to all your social media platforms. So this is November 9th, man. We about 2.5 weeks closer to Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody have their mouth set on some good old Thanksgiving meal. Me personally, I can take it or leave it. But, you know, after the first day of Thanksgiving, I'm like, okay, I'm cool. Around that second day, I think I'm kind of over the leftovers. But anyway, it's always good to be able to have thanks and have a meal with family and friends. You know, last year, with the pandemic, we didn't really get to do the traditional Thanksgiving. So hopefully everybody will be able to be with family and friends. Again, this is TFG Sports. I'm your sports host, Kendrick Henderson. We're going to sit here 30 minutes. Go ahead and enjoy yourself. Get you something to drink. Take your shoes off. We get ready to take a ride for 30 minutes and talk about the hot takes in the sports world. We're going to start off with, I always start off with on our sports show. We're going to recap the NFL. This is week 9. Sunday, man, I called it upset Sunday because the Raiders, the Bills, the Rams, the Bengals, and the Saints all got beat. And I always say on any given Sunday, anybody can get beat. But we're going to recap the game where another team got beat too, and they got slapped around pretty good. And we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. They were hosting the Denver Broncos, who came in at 4-4. Cowboys are feeling pretty good of themselves. They had won 6 in a row, came in at 6-1, and this score really was, and they lost 30-16, but it really wasn't that close. Those last 2 touchdowns were meaningless. But this was probably a wake-up call. I think this was a trap game, and it turned out to be just that for the Cowboys. They came out looking a little flat to me. You know, they started out great with that 50-yard kickoff return by Tony Pollard, and I was like, okay, look like they're gonna do some things. Then that 4th down, they didn't get that 4th and 2, I believe, and then that next 4th down that they didn't get, I said, okay, this is gonna be probably not one of the days for the Cowboys. Again, the Cowboys lost to the Broncos 30-16. Some of the stats. Teddy Bridgewater for the Broncos, he was 19 for 28, 249 yards, a solid game, 1 touchdown. Now, Dak looked a little, you know, this is his first game back. He looked a little out of sync. I don't know. He looked a little rusty. He was 19 for 39, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And all that really pretty much came in the fourth quarter because he had a lot of empty, those yards were empty, and he wasn't really playing well. I just think the whole offensive line, you know, Tyron Smith was out. They moved Terrence Steele to left tackle. Lyle Collins was playing right tackle. So I don't know. They just didn't look like they were in sync. Now, the Broncos gashed them in the running game. The Broncos picked up 190 yards. Dallas defense looked like the Dallas defense from last year. They couldn't stop the run. Javonte Williams, 17 carries, 111 yards. They were killing him in the run game, and he was having big runs. I remember the 32-yard run he had. They couldn't even bring him down. So the Cowboys defense, I think they got brought back down to earth too. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn said, yeah, we got some ish that we got to get fixed. Trevon Diggs, he didn't have this was probably his worst game, I think, this year. He had a PI, pass interference call, that led to a Broncos touchdown. And then he got beat by Denver's wide receiver Tim Patrick for that 44-yard touchdown. So, and then he was called for a holding penalty. So Trevon Diggs didn't have one of his games, and then the Cowboys defense didn't have any turnovers. So they were Broncos came out and played and put it to them. They made them say, okay, we got to wake up because they got to turn around and face Atlanta this coming Sunday. And Atlanta, they look like they might have some life. They ended up getting a win over the Saints. I believe they played. So yeah, the Cowboys now they're 6-2. Broncos are 5-4. Next up for the Cowboys again is the Atlanta Falcons. They're at home at AT&T. Another thing, the Cowboys hadn't defeated the Broncos since October 1995. Wow, that was the triplet era. The Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and that talented defense. That's the last time the Cowboys have defeated the Broncos. Wow, and that was 31-21. Also, this last game, Cowboys was 0 points in their first 8 possessions, and they're the highest scoring offense in the league. 0 points, first 8 possessions, and they were 0 for 4 on fourth down conversions. And they had, I think they ranked 4th in the league on converted in fourth down. So this game just went down here real quick for the Cowboys. I always say, you're going to have one of these games, I think no matter how good you are, you're just going to have one of these games where nothing goes right. And that I think this is the game for the Cowboys. Now, hopefully they got it out their system because the next couple of games on their schedule is pretty tough. They got Atlanta after Sunday. Then they go to Kansas City. Then they host the Raiders on Thanksgiving. So yeah, they got a lot going on. And speaking of which, joining me now, the voice of Vernon Speaks Sports, YouTube, voice of Auburn football, my fan. What's going on, Kennard? How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How y'all doing tonight?
We doing all right, man. I was just finishing up with that Cowboys stinker that they put up Sunday against the Broncos, 30-16. I don't know if you got to catch any of that, but if you did, what's your thoughts on this Cowboys loss?
My thoughts on this loss is, you look at the sub-conference that they're in the NFL, they still are in the driver's seat to win their division. And what they want to do is avoid, any other hiccups down the stretch, because a lot of the Dallas Cowboys fan base feel like that the Cowboys are back. And losses down the stretch and having to, just barely even making it into the playoffs, if they make it at all. At this point, I think the fan base is a little nervous right now because of what they have down the road. And I think this was a tough loss for the Cowboys, considering losing to a team that is not necessarily in the driver. It's like in Denver's sub-conference, anybody can get it at this point.
Right.
But the Cowboys were actually in the driver's seat and actually losing to a team that is not even controlling their own destiny in their conference. I think that was a tough blow for that organization.
Yeah, well, and I say you gotta have a short memory. I was just saying before you came on, most good teams, they're gonna have one of those games where it just was a stinker. And I think that was just these Cowboy games. Now the problem is just make sure this is your only one, because you ain't got no room for error coming up after Thanksgiving, because that's when things really get tight.
Oh yeah, things get real tough down the stretch. So we'll see what the Cowboys do. I wish them well, and I'm, especially for their fan base who's just, wanting them to be back to where they were in the mid-90s, and I don't think they will ever be in that position. But
no,
I mean, they had something going on, but now a 30-16 loss to Denver was definitely a kick in the stomach for that organization for sure.
For real. So anyway, again, Cowboys, they will be facing the Falcons this Sunday at home. I believe that's a noon game. So we'll see if they can get out.
The Falcons the Falcons come off a huge win over the Saints.
Exactly.
So they're going to be carrying be carrying a lot of momentum in that game, and don't think that the Falcons are going to let up, because that's just not. Yeah. They're typically the underdog, but now after smelling blood, you got to make sure that you take care of business in that regard.
So that's going to be interesting. Now we're going to move on to the Packers and Chiefs, and we're going to roll through this. I wasn't expecting the Packers to win. I didn't pick them to win with starting a second-year quarterback that hadn't played, Jordan Love. Me personally, he didn't he didn't look bad, but I was hoping he looked better. And I think he didn't. I think the Packers now realize that this might not be our guy just yet. So we better make sure we make Aaron Rodgers happy. Now we're gonna talk about that other situation with Aaron Rodgers in just a second. But just this game, just this game, Packers lost 13-7. I think the Packers defense balled out. I think they did all they could do to keep them in the game. Offensively, Jordan Love again. He just he showed that he hadn't played football in the NFL, and that's okay. But we got to get him ready. Matt LaFleur took all the blame. I get that, but you got to get him ready. Did you check out any of this game? What you think about it?
You know, I didn't check out the game, but I always like to look at the end result of these games. You look at a situation where the Packers, who have traditionally been one of the more powerhouse teams in the NFL, they're continuing to prove that, as from what I can see, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is now. They're going to make the playoffs. They're 7-2. And the teams behind them in the division are so far behind that they can't catch up. So it's a situation where Green Bay's division to lose. They do need to figure out, assuming they do make the playoffs or make the wild card, things of that nature, quarterback play in any area of football.
Yeah, you froze.
Yeah, quarterback play in any area of football is important, and I think Green Bay has to keep that in mind if they're going to be the team that we traditionally know them to be as a blue blood in the NFL. So I think Green Bay is in a good spot. They may have some internal logistical stuff going on to where they could cost them on the big stage, but for right now, they're good to go.
Yeah. And I would say Jordan Love did throw a nice little touchdown pass to Alan Lazard to put them on the board without being blank. The Packers was 0 for 9 on third downs, but again, offensively, they were going to be behind an 8 ball because not having Aaron Rodgers, a short week for Jordan Love to prepare him for that game. Anyway, I expected them to lose. I expected them to bounce back. We'll know Aaron Rodgers won't be eligible unless he clears those tests. Saturday is the first day he'll be eligible to be back, and the Packers host the Seahawks at Lambeau Field. So that's the NFL recap week 9. Now let's get to Aaron Rodgers' vaccination gate. If you hadn't heard, it's been all over the news. It's been talk. It's been everywhere. Aaron Rodgers basically, he said he misled. No, he basically lied about his vaccination status. He was asked back in August, had he been vaccinated, he said, I'm immunized. Well,
immunized? What?
Immunized is basically the same thing as vaccination. So now he's been making this talk show circuit saying that he was misled and that he's allergic to certain ingredients in those shots. And he was trying to find ways to do it his own, and he lobbied the NFL for this and that, yada yada yada. Now he's saying the woke community is trying to crucify him, this and that. But at the end of the day, all he had to do was tell the truth at the beginning. Just say, I was not vaccinated and I'm allergic to certain ingredients in those vaccines.
Right.
We wouldn't even be sitting here talking about this. What you think about this whole Aaron Rodgers and saying I misled?
You know, one thing you got to look at is, unfortunately, when you're in the spotlight, when you are a celebrity or when you are a NFL football player in this situation, you have a certain level of unwarranted. I mean, it's not your fault, but that's what society does. You have a certain level of responsibility and accountability.
Right.
I think Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. You can put him up there with Joe Montana, and there's so many of them.
It's so many. Dan Marino.
So you put him, you put a quarterback like him in that type of conversation. So you expect the accountability to be there. I don't know who his his public relations person is. He needs to stop paying him if he has one, because there's a lot of irresponsibility here.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, if you're not vaccinated, just say that.
Just say that.
Don't try to dance around this thing. And now you're in a position to where you're not playing football because you are COVID positive, and everybody has their own situation to where they have the right to decide whether they're vaccinated or not. But to come up with excuses when the result goes into the negative portion of this type of situation, I think that's deadly irresponsible, especially for someone who's going to be easily a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it was definitely irresponsible. Lamar Falk said Steve DeBerg is one of the Hall of Stop it, Lamar. You know good and well Steve DeBerg ain't one of the great quarterbacks. But anyway, exactly, irresponsibility. And here's the thing. The NFL doesn't require their players to be vaccinated. Now, if you're unvaccinated, you have to follow the certain protocols that they put forth. So that's all he had to say when he was asked. Just say, I'm not vaccinated. But we all saw that Aaron Rodgers hadn't been following the protocols. He's been doing press conferences with without masks. He's supposed to be doing it through Zoom. He's been, gathering without a mask during. So my thing is Aaron Rodgers brought this on himself. And I think, and I'm a Packer guy, but I'm going to call you out regardless if I root for you or not. My thing is you lied, and now you're trying to tap dance around it and saying that you didn't. So just own it. Just own it. Say, hey, just own it.
That ownership piece from Aaron Rodgers' part is definitely not there, and I think that's I'm not going to say he's from a character standpoint that he doesn't have character. That's not fair to say about him.
Right. No, I agree with that.
But in this particular circumstance, this COVID thing is a very you got to be responsible, especially if you're in the forefront like this.
Exactly.
And to be in a situation where you can't play a game because of these protocols, and there was an opportunity for you to be vaccinated, and then you double back and say that the vaccination is, could cause damage to my health, or I'm allergic to certain things. And it kind of reminds me of when this COVID thing first happened, and you got the 5G people. The people talking about
the 5G. I remember
this
that.
Is not a this is not a conspiracy.
Right.
There are individuals that have lost their lives. There are families that have been, really disconnected.
Yeah.
Tangibly because of this particular situation with COVID-19. And I just think Aaron Rodgers took the irresponsible route. He didn't think he was going to get caught. He was.
Right. And he did.
His response to it was really for a person of his stature and his place in NFL history. I just think it kind of taints.
Right. I agree. Kind of like even though we look at Tom Brady as one of the greats, but we always remember Deflategate. That will always be, you know what I'm saying? So this thing with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to always follow him. Him lying about being vaccinated.
And it's sad though,
right? Because
we think about countless people in the sports arena. We look at Joe Paterno. Paterno, one of the better coaches in college football history. One incident that he chose to be negligent in causes him to not be that coach anymore. They taking statues away and things of that nature. Also, Reggie Bush, one of the best college football players, running backs in history, because of some irresponsible things that he's done, it taints his, it taints his legacy.
Right.
So that's a lesson to our listeners tonight, to say, if you have a legacy, if you have some good things going on, don't allow an isolated event to deflate all the work you've done.
Exactly. Just again, own it. Because we are human, we all make mistakes. Once you do it, just own it. So, we'll see if if he's available. He has to pass some tests by the Saturday. So if he doesn't pass some tests, then he won't be playing against the Seahawks, and Jordan Love will be getting his second start. Now we're gonna move on to Odell Beckham Jr. It came down this afternoon that he has officially cleared waivers, so he's free to sign with any team. This mess all started last week when his pops posted this video. Social media went viral, showing video of Baker Mayfield. Basically, I would say I watched it. He either didn't want to throw it to him or he just was missing him. I don't know what it was. So Pops got a little upset. Browns management wasn't happy about it. By Wednesday, they told him don't come to practice. Thursday, they told him don't come. Friday, he was released. Then on today, he officially cleared waivers so he can free to sign with any team he likes. I'm gonna ask you this, Kennard, brother. Who do you think? What will be a good fit for Odell Beckham? What team?
You know, there are a few teams that are struggling as far as wide receiver. Here's where it's not who wants Odell Beckham, it's where he wants to go. For one thing,
Right.
let's go
Right.
ahead and really get down to the meat of this. Odell Beckham in Cleveland, you got to look at the type of person, you got to look at the type of player he is. He is a superstar type player. He chose to go to Cleveland. I don't give a damn what you do in Cleveland. You're not gonna get the love you get at a Cleveland like you would at the New York Giants. I'm gonna tell you what's up.
No. You're right about that. Yeah,
I'm
for
gonna tell
real.
you what's up with Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham lost his star power when he was in Cleveland.
And he was hurt too a lot. He was hurt.
Yeah, and not to mention he suffered a knee injury that kind of hurt his productivity. But the bottom line is that's just like, you know, we remember Deion Sanders back when he was in his prime. That's just like sending Deion Sanders to let's see who was kind of shaky during that time. That's like sending Deion Sanders to say the Seahawks or somebody
right.
that's not
at that time,
kind of
yeah.
So Odell Beckham, it ain't nowhere. He ain't trying to. He don't care nothing about no championships. Odell Beckham is not the Odell Beckham that's dancing in the end zone.
Yeah,
and he's not getting that love like he used to.
Yeah, he's only 29, and Lamar Fox say Dallas. No, I don't.
No.
Dallas got enough firepower. Yeah, they good on that.
I don't think. I think he would do well at Dallas.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think he needs to go to like a San Francisco.
That's
Kansas
one of the.
City,
that's
Kansas
those.
City
Those are two
help.
teams. That's two of the teams. It's
you
funny
know,
you mentioned those. Who's the other team? The Raiders, I think, would be a really good fit.
Oh man, it'd be a great fit.
Yeah,
Las Vegas is the perfect venue. For a guy like Odell Beckham. I mean, he can go out there and show his ass and get away with it. but in Cleveland, that's more of a conservative. Yeah, we might make the playoffs, we might not. But at the end of the day, Odell Beckham, this is some superficial stuff he's got going on, and he knows he's not going to get the love that he would get anywhere else, and he ain't going to win a championship in Cleveland. So he definitely wants to jump ship, and I don't blame him because his personality just doesn't fit into Cleveland.
Yeah. But I would say the one team that I think that he would go just to dig at Cleveland would be the Baltimore Ravens.
And see, that's a cool spot.
Yeah, and then they got a young talented quarterback. They got he would be the lead, well, at least the number 2 guy there. They got Sammy Watkins, but I think that would be a perfect fit, and then a dig at Cleveland too.
And you know, you mentioned the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, they've had Ray Lewis. This is a team that where he can go and exemplify his star power, but he's not gonna have that star power in Cleveland. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Well, so he's gone. He's officially cleared waivers.
And on top of that, you got to look at the relationship piece. He and Baker Mayfield, they may have had an okay relationship off the field, but on the field, the chemistry just wasn't there.
Right, and it was definitely shot after his pops did that video last week on.
And that's
so that was a wrap. Yeah,
man, parents need to.
They need to chill. I know, bro. Me too. They need to chill.
I'm seeing it at Auburn. You got 2 receivers on the sidelines right now, and I guarantee you they're pretty talented. But I guarantee you, parents need to stay out of the mix. Let these kids put their talent on. This is not Pop Warner football. Let their talents be their talents. But you got coaches that are getting paid $5-10 million a year to coach football, and they're not listening to you on the sidelines. Matter of fact, they see you as a distraction. So I mean, parents can do doom to their kids in the sports arena.
All right, so that's the move for Odell. So we're gonna keep an eye on it and keep it locked here. Once he signed, we're gonna definitely be on it. Now since we talk about college and we're gonna talk about the SEC conference, Vernon Speaks Sports is your guy. He's your Auburn voice. We're gonna talk about. I'm just gonna go over a couple of results from this past weekend, but we're gonna specifically talk about Auburn A&M. Number 1 Georgia still look like number 1 Georgia, and I don't see nobody even close to them. They put it on Missouri 43-6. Number 2 Alabama kind of struggled a little bit with LSU 20-14. Number 16 Ole Miss 27-14 over Liberty, and number 17 Mississippi State. They lost to Arkansas 31-28, and number 18 Kentucky lost to Tennessee 45-42. But we specifically going to talk about Auburn A&M. Again, Vernon Speaks Sports is the voice of Auburn. Auburn only scored 3 points. Number 12, Auburn lost to number 13 A&M 20-3. Kennard, fam, tell me what you thought about that game.
You know, this game was a situation to where you look at a 20-3 loss for Auburn, but the score was 6-3 going in the fourth quarter. It was a back and forth football game. Texas A&M did a lot of things schematically to confuse Bo Nix. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite, even though this was from the opposing teams, but I love good schemes though. One of my favorite portions of this football game was where you had a defensive end that fake pursued and spied in the flat on Bo Nix because they understand his tendency to like to either roll to the right or to the left or pass to his left tendency wise. When they did that, I was like, okay, we're in trouble for sure. Auburn could not capitalize in the red zone, had a couple of red zone trips, but let's not take away from Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a very talented football team. They've been in the SEC now since 2012. They've really started to mitigate their recruiting to fit the SEC West, and now they're really starting to see the fruits of that labor. You talk about a really good defensive line and a really good offensive line. You also have some very good coaches down at Texas A&M, to where it's kind of sad to where, as well as Texas A&M has done this year, there's a situation to where if things happen the way they might not. They still, after beating Auburn and Alabama, the two teams you definitely have to beat in the SEC West, they still are in a scenario to where they may be on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Now, here's what has to happen for Texas A&M to win the conference. I mean, the sub-conference. One, they got to win out. That's just guaranteed because they already have 2 sub-conference losses. 2, Auburn has to beat Alabama because by head-to-head, let me reverse this. Yes, Auburn has to beat Alabama in order for them to win out, because Alabama will then have 2 losses.
2 losses, yeah.
And then you factor in the head-to-head.
Head-to-head, right.
But here's where things get real tricky. Now, a lot of Auburn fans were deflated because of this loss, but not me. Because if Auburn wins out, they beat Alabama, and Texas A&M has a history of struggling with Ole Miss and LSU. You got Auburn right back in the
back in the mix. Yeah.
So
okay.
So that's where things get real tricky. It's amazing that a field goal by Texas A&M beating Alabama has caused all this ruckus in the SEC down the stretch. Now, here's what this is way off the subject, but here's what I can't wait to see is Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be unreal. Pretty much every huge rivalry in college football will be in the SEC.
In the SEC.
Oklahoma versus Texas. My favorite thing is the prospect of Texas A&M and Texas renewing their rivalry.
Exactly.
Because I really think that's a tragedy for college football, for conference realignment. And how is it possible that Texas A&M don't play Texas? Don't even make sense.
It doesn't even sound right. It's just weird. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But you right on point. Yeah, that all the rivalries is definitely really gonna the ones we like is gonna be in the SEC once Texas and Oklahoma join. But I'm gonna tell you one more stat on this game, then we're gonna get to final thoughts.
Okay,
that stuck out to me. A&M rushed for 217 yards. Auburn only 73. Did you expect that? Did you expect for Auburn not to run for at least 100 yards against A&M?
I expected Auburn to struggle with the running game because, like I said before, you got guys on Texas A&M's football team at the line of scrimmage that have been there pretty much since 2016. They had the extra eligibility, because of COVID and things like that. And Auburn's offensive line, they played better, but Texas A&M's defensive front is elite. I did expect Auburn to struggle running the ball. I expected Auburn to struggle moving the football. Texas A&M has 2 of the best running backs in the Southeastern Conference as a tandem. CJ Spiller one who has proven to be,
Isaiah Spiller. Isaiah.
Isaiah Spiller. I'm thinking about CJ.
Right.
From Clemson.
Yeah.
But Isaiah Spiller, who has continued to progress as one of the better running backs in the Southeastern Conference. So no, I wasn't shocked. Okay. But I also like the fact that Auburn did counter that by not allowing A&M a lot of passing yards. They only allowed like 192 passing yards. So I would rather have a team that has 216 running yards, because those are hard-earned yards. But if you have 400 passing yards, that's chunk yards down the field that really hurts you down the stretch and really stretches your defense out. So Auburn definitely did the bend but not break thing. But I just want you all to look at the fact of this. Georgia will be in the Southeastern Conference Championship.
Right.
The SEC West, not decided yet. And I enjoy that for the first time in a long time. Alabama does not have a ready-made ticket to the SEC Championship.
Right. So there you have it. SEC Conference recap with my main guy, Kennard, with Vernon Speaks Sports. So we're getting into our final thoughts now. All right, fam. Talk to me. What you got? Final thoughts.
Well, for one, the NFL, you got some conferences that have pretty much a ready-made champion in the conference. Then you got some sub-conferences in the NFL that you got 5-4, 5-3, 5. Anybody can make it. So the NFL in certain sectors are wide open. The Dallas Cowboys, they cannot screw this thing up down the stretch. They have the opportunity to when you look at the schedule. Also, I think, when we dance around with Aaron Rodgers, you just got to be more responsible. Odell Beckham just wants the star power. Georgia is the best team in the Southeastern Conference for sure. Whoever they play in the SEC championship game, I'll go ahead and say it here, they should win. But overall, with all of that being said, I definitely appreciate being on this show. But it helps me to talk about some stuff other than Auburn football. My final thoughts is thank you for inviting me back. This is a great venue. This is a great sector to talk about sports. And you can find me at Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Down in the Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle.
That's my guy, Vernon Speaks Sports. Now, my final thoughts is, fam, is Scottie Pippen released a memoir today called Unguarded. He's been on the talk circuit. He was on Good Morning America. He was on the Today Show. And there's a few chapters devoted to The Last Dance, the documentary that came out in May of last year that Michael Jordan was actually the executive producer. And let's just say Scottie and Michael probably won't be having cigars together anymore, because Scottie basically called Michael condescending, selfish, wouldn't take ownership of his own doings or whatnot. That's his personal right. It's his memoir. That's how he feel. But my thing to Scottie, and Scottie is one of the 50 greatest players of all time. He's a 6-time champion. And I respect all that. I respect Scottie as a player. But I would tell Scottie this, and I'm referencing the Temptations movie because I love the Temptations.
I already know.
Scottie, you are Otis Williams.
Oh yeah, for sure.
MJ is David Ruffin.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody come to see you, Scottie.
No, sir. We appreciate you though.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate Otis. But MJ was David Ruffin.
Oh man. I just, I understand how people reflect and, over the years and they do things. I just think, when you do stuff like this, come on, Scottie, you know what it is.
But I ain't gotta, I mean, that's his take and that's his book and he can say what he want to say. Now, my thing is, when Mike come out with his book, or if he decides, because most time leaders, when you're a true leader, as most leaders that's successful, I will be honest, they are assholes. They are hard to difficult. They difficult people. I think the Last Dance showed that Mike was an asshole. I think it showed that.
Mike showed that Mike. If anybody, looked at Michael Jordan as a player, I mean, he was an asshole.
Right.
You can't be a nice guy and win 6 straight championships. You can't be a nice guy and get your ass beat up by the Detroit Pistons for a couple of years, and then you come back, like the Phoenix rising out of the ashes and become one of the greatest players in NBA history. Most leaders, most of our bosses that we've had, hell, I could be even considered an asshole because I'm in management.
Right.
So there are certain characteristics that you got to have, and Michael Jordan had those leadership characteristics. Scottie Pippen on the back end, I don't like it, but it is what it is.
And I would say this, and we're gonna get out of here. I think Michael needed Scottie, and I think Scottie needed Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes a relationship, it is what it is, and it was what it was. And let's remember that they made magic together. No pun intended. So that's my take on Scottie.
And again, they did. I think that needs to be the legacy.
Yeah, and I love them both. But again, Scottie, you Otis Williams. Mike is David Ruffin. And on that note, you have been watching TFG Sports with your guy, Kendrick, my man, Kennard, Vernon Speaks Sports. You can find him on his YouTube. Make sure you go over there and subscribe and like it and share it and all that. So we're done for the night. You guys enjoy the rest of the night. This has been your sports guy, Kendrick. And until next Tuesday, peace.
I press the button and the doors go up.